Discourses of Epictetus, essential selections, practical Stoic wisdom for modern life, self-mastery, and mental toughness. Ancient Greek philosophy for men, leaders, and entrepreneurs by Aurelian Hart. Introduction. In the year 89 AD, everyone in Rome knew that the emperor was the most powerful man on earth. Emperor Domitian was a man who ruled by fear. He was paranoid, cruel, and deeply suspicious of anyone who fought for themselves. He believed that if he owned the land, the army, and the laws, he owned the people. Conventional wisdom said that if the emperor frowned at you, your life was over. If he kicked you out of the city, you were nothing. You were a ghost without a home. Domitian grew especially angry with the philosophers. These were men who taught that true power didn't come from a throne or a pile of gold coins. They taught that a man could be free even in a dark cell. To a tyrant like Domitian, this was dangerous talk. He didn't want people to feel free. He wanted them to be afraid. So, he passed a law. Every single thinker and philosopher was banned from Rome. They were told to pack their bags and get out, or face death. Among the crowd of people leaving the city gates was a man who walked with a heavy limp. His name was Epictetus. He had spent most of his life as a slave. His leg had been broken years before by a cruel master, leaving him crippled for life. He had no money. He had no fancy title. He had just lost his school and his home. To any outside observer, Epictetus was a victim. He was a man who had been crushed by the real world. But Epictetus didn't feel like a victim. As he hobbled away from the greatest city in the world, he wasn't crying or cursing the emperor. He wasn't worried about where he would sleep or how he would eat. He understood something that Domitian never would. He knew that the emperor could take his house, his city, and even his body, but he could never touch his mind. Epictetus moved to a small town in Greece called Nicopolis. Instead of fading away into history, he built a new school. It became the most famous school in the ancient world. People traveled for months just to hear him speak. Even future emperors came to sit at his feet. He proved that a leader's power isn't found in his location or his bank account. It is found in his ability to remain calm and effective when everything else is falling apart. The modern cage. Today, we don't have emperors kicking us out of cities, but we have our own versions of Domitian. We are surrounded by things that try to tell us how to feel. Your phone buzzes with a breaking news alert about a market crash, and your stomach drops. An angry client sends a nasty email at 9 p.m., and your entire night with your family is ruined. You see a competitor hitting a new milestone on social media, and suddenly, your own success feels like a failure. You are likely a modern striver. You work hard. You want to build something great. You want to provide for the people you love. But if you are honest, you feel like a slave to your circumstances. You are a micromanaging firefighter. You spend your days jumping from one crisis to the next. You believe that if you don't personally oversee every single detail, your world will crumble. This constant state of high stress is exhausting. It leads to a specific kind of pain called future tripping. This is when you spend your energy worrying about things that haven't happened yet and might never happen at all. You are physically in your office or at your dinner table, but your mind is 5 months in the future, panicking about a what-if scenario. You might think that the answer is to work harder, get more control over your employees, or make more money so you can finally relax. But that is exactly what the people of Rome thought. They thought freedom came from external things. They were wrong. The harder you try to control the outside world, the more the outside world controls you. You become a slave to the weather, the economy, and the opinions of people you don't even like. The Promise of the Stoic Strategist. This book is about a different way to live. It is based on the source code for mental toughness written by a man who started with nothing and ended up teaching the world how to be free. You are going to learn how to stop being reactive. A reactive person is like a piece of wood floating in the ocean. If the waves are calm, the wood is fine. If a storm hits, The wood is tossed around and smashed against the rocks. By the end of these pages, you will become a stoic strategist. A strategist doesn't just hope for good weather. He builds a ship that can handle any storm. He has an unshakable inner core. He makes decisions based on facts and logic, not on emotional panic or hot-headed outbursts. You will learn to stay calm and effective when your market collapses or a project fails. Distinguish between what you can actually change and what is a waste of your energy. Stop caring about the competition and start hitting your own internal goals. End the cycle of anger caused by difficult employees or family members. Lead with a clear philosophy that makes people respect and follow you. This isn't about being a robot or not having feelings. It's about having a mind that is so strong that the world cannot break it. It's about finding a type of freedom that no boss, no economy, and no bad luck can ever take away from you. Why this works? This isn't just theory. These ideas have been tested in the most extreme conditions imaginable. You will read about James Stockdale, a Navy pilot who was shot down over Vietnam. He spent 7.5 years as a prisoner of war. He was tortured and kept in a tiny cell. He survived because he had the words of Epictetus memorized. He knew that his body belonged to his captors, but his character belonged to him. You will see how Roman senators use these tools to stand up to tyrants. You will see how modern business leaders use them to stay sane in a world that never stops screaming for their attention. This wisdom has survived for 2,000 years because it works. It is the ultimate life hack for anyone who has a lot of responsibility and even more stress. The man in the corner office. To see how this looks in the real world, we need to look at Marcus Sterling. Marcus is 42 years old and the CEO of Logos Tech, a company in Chicago that handles shipping and logistics. He has a glass-walled office that looks out over the city. He drives a fast car. He has a wife, Sarah, and 2 teenage kids who go to great schools. But if you could step inside Marcus's head, you would see a man on the brink of a disaster. It is a cold Tuesday morning in Chicago. Marcus is standing by his window, holding a cup of coffee that has gone cold. His chest feels tight, a dull ache he's been ignoring for months. His phone is vibrating on his desk. It hasn't stopped vibrating since 5 o'clock in the morning. A major port strike has just been announced. For a logistics company, this is like an earthquake. Shipments are stuck. Millions of dollars are on the line. Marcus feels like he's drowning. He has already yelled at his assistant twice this morning. He has sent 50 emails, most of them demanding things that are physically impossible for his team to do. Marcus believes a lie. He believes that his success and his worth as a human being depends entirely on his ability to control the external world. He thinks that if he can just scream loud enough or work long enough, he can force the union bosses to stop the strike. He thinks that if he doesn't respond to every email instantly, his empire will fall apart. He is a micromanaging firefighter, and he is burning out. His wife is tired of him being there but not there at dinner. His kids have stopped asking him to play because he's always on his phone. Marcus is a powerful CEO, but in reality, he is a slave to a strike he didn't start and a market he can't control. He is about to learn that his success is currently a prisoner of events. The journey ahead. The path from being a Marcus to being a stoic strategist is not about learning a bunch of complicated words. It is about changing how you see the world. We are going to go through the most important lessons from Epictetus and apply them to your life right now. The line in the sand. You will learn the dichotomy of control. This is the most important tool in the Stoic toolkit. It will teach you how to stop wasting 90% of your energy on things that don't matter. The 2 handles. You will discover that every problem has 2 ways it can be carried. One handle makes the problem feel heavy and impossible. The other makes it manageable. You will learn how to pick the right handle every time. The social mirror. You will learn why seeking the approval of fools is a trap that kills your productivity and your happiness. The inner citadel. You will learn how to build a mental fortress that protects you from insults, setbacks, and bad news. The red thread. You will see how to be a leader who stays true to his values, even when everyone else is cutting corners. By the time we finish, you will see Marcus Sterling again. You will see how he handles the betrayal of a business partner and the chaos of his own home. You will see him transform from a man who is reacting to a man who is acting with purpose. You don't need to move to a cave in Greece to find peace. You don't need to quit your job to be free. You just need to change the source code of your mind. You need to learn how to stand at the gates of your own Rome, look at the emperor of your problems, and realize that he has no power over you. The world is loud, chaotic, and often unfair. It will try to break your leg, take your money, and ruin your reputation. But as Epictetus taught his students 2,000 years ago, you have a choice. You can go through life as a slave to what happens, or you can go through it as a master of yourself. Chapter 1: Mastering the Art of Internal Control. James Stockdale stepped off the plane in 1973 and looked at the crowd waiting for him. He had been gone for more than 7 years. He was a high-ranking Navy pilot, but he didn't look like a man who had just spent nearly a decade in a dark, dirty prison cell in North Vietnam. Most men who came out of the Hanoi Hilton were broken. They were shells of who they used to be. Their eyes showed a deep, hollow sadness. But Stockdale was different. He walked with a strange kind of calm. He looked like a man who had discovered a secret that no one else knew. When people asked him how he survived the torture, the hunger, and the iron leg irons, he didn't talk about his military training. He didn't talk about his physical strength. He talked about a small, crippled man who lived 2,000 years ago. He talked about Epictetus. Stockdale realized that while the guards could break his bones and take his clothes, they couldn't touch his mind unless he let them. He had spent those 7 years practicing a single, powerful idea. It is the idea that separates the masters of life from the victims of life. The world of Epictetus. On September 9, 1965, Stockdale was flying his A-4E Skyhawk over North Vietnam when the world exploded. An anti-aircraft shell tore through his engine. The cockpit filled with smoke. The plane began to spin toward the jungle below. He pulled the ejection handle and felt the rocket seat blast him into the air. As his parachute opened, he looked down. He didn't see a rescue team. He saw a village of angry people waiting for him to land. He knew he was about to be beaten. He knew he was about to become a prisoner of war. In those few seconds of floating between the sky and the ground, Stockdale didn't panic. He whispered a sentence to himself that would change his life. I'm leaving the world of technology and entering the world of Epictetus. He was referring to a book he had read back at Stanford University. It was a tiny handbook called The Enchiridion, written by a former slave. Epictetus taught that the most important thing a human being can ever learn is the dichotomy of control. It sounds like a big fancy phrase, but the meaning is very simple. It means that everything in life fits into one of two buckets. The first bucket contains things that are up to us. These are our own thoughts, our own choices, and our own reactions. The second bucket contains things that are not up to us. This includes the weather, the economy, what other people think of us, and even our own bodies. Stockdale realized that his body now belonged to the North Vietnamese. They could beat it, they could starve it, they could lock it in a room. But his will, his ability to choose his own character, was still his. If he tried to control his body or the length of the war, he would live in constant pain. If he focused only on his own choices, he could remain free, even in a cage. The myth of the powerful leader. Most of us live under a giant lie. We believe that to be a leader or a success, we must control the world around us. We think that if we work hard enough, we can control our reputation. We think if we yell loud enough, we can control our employees. We think if we check our bank account often enough, we can control the market. This is a myth. It is a fairy tale that leads to high blood pressure, late-night anxiety, and a feeling of being constantly overwhelmed. When we try to grab things that are in the not up to us bucket, we become slaves. We are like a dog tied to a moving cart. If the cart turns left, we have to go left. If the cart goes fast, we have to run. We aren't leading, we are just reacting to things we can't stop. Epictetus was born into literal slavery. He spent his youth in Rome as the property of a man who worked for the Emperor Nero. He was poor, he was physically disabled, because his master had once twisted his leg so hard it snapped. If anyone had a reason to feel like a victim, it was him. Yet, he became the most sought-after teacher in the empire. Why? Because he proved that freedom has nothing to do with your bank account or your social status. He taught his students that when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you become invincible. You can't be disappointed because you never expected the world to behave exactly how you wanted. You can't be insulted because you know someone else's opinion is just noise in the wind. You become the owner of yourself. A storm in the Loop. Marcus Sterling stood in his corner office in downtown Chicago, staring at a wall of glass. Outside, the city was moving, but inside his chest, everything felt like it was freezing. His phone was vibrating on the mahogany desk behind him. It hadn't stopped for 3 hours. A major port strike had just been announced. For most people, that was just a news headline. For Marcus, the CEO of Logos Tech, it was a disaster. His firm moved parts for some of the biggest manufacturers in the country. If the ships didn't move, his company didn't move. If his company didn't move, his Q4 numbers would tank. His board of directors would be calling for his head by Monday morning. Marcus felt a sharp pain in his chest. He felt like he couldn't breathe. He started typing an angry email to his head of operations, blaming him for not seeing this coming. Then he deleted it. He started to call his wife to tell her they might have to cancel their summer vacation to save money. Then he put the phone down. He was spinning. He was the dog tied to the cart, and the cart was currently flying off a cliff. He walked over to a large whiteboard in the corner of the room. He picked up a blue marker. His hands were shaking. He remembered a book his mentor had given him years ago about ancient philosophy. He drew a line down the middle of the board. On the left side, he wrote, "Not mine." On the right side, he wrote, "Mine." Under "Not mine," he wrote, "The union boss's decision to strike," "The global shipping lanes," the angry emails from the board, the price of fuel. Under "Mine," he wrote, "My tone of voice when I talk to my team," the alternative shipping routes we can research, how much sleep I get tonight so I can think clearly, my decision to stay calm for my family. Marcus looked at the board. For the first time in weeks, his heart rate slowed down. He realized that 90% of his stress was coming from the left side of the board. He was trying to solve things that were physically impossible to solve. He was trying to reach through the whiteboard and change the "Not mine" column. As soon as he drew that circle around the "Mine" column, his brain shifted. He wasn't a victim of a strike anymore. He was a strategist with a job to do. The two buckets in action. To master this art, you have to be honest about what you actually own. Epictetus says there are only a few things that truly belong to you. These are your opinions, your goals, and your desires. Everything else is external. Think about your body. You might think you own it, but can you stop it from getting sick? Can you stop it from aging? If a car hits you tomorrow, can you will your bones not to break? No. Therefore, your body isn't external. You should take care of it, but you shouldn't tie your happiness to it. Think about your money. You can work hard, but a market crash or a crooked partner can take it away in an afternoon. If your happiness is tied to your net worth, you are a prisoner of the economy. This doesn't mean you should be lazy or stop caring. It means you change where you care. A stoic leader works harder than anyone else, but they do it for the sake of the work itself, not for the reward. They focus on the process because the process is up to them. The outcome is not up to them. This shows up in modern life in places you might not expect. In the 2008 financial crisis, the world of finance was on fire. Many hedge fund managers were losing their minds. They were staring at the red numbers on their screens, screaming at their assistants, and drinking themselves into a stupor. They were focused on the "Not mine" column, the market. But there was a small group of traders who stayed perfectly calm. They didn't ignore the crisis, but they understood that the market's behavior was outside their control. They focused on their internal metrics. Did they follow their own rules? Did they stay disciplined? Did they keep their heads clear? By focusing on their own character, they were able to spot opportunities that the panicked traders missed. They survived because they weren't trying to fight the ocean. They were just focused on how they steered their own boat. The response of a legend. We see this same strength in the life of the tennis great Arthur Ashe. In the 1980s, Ashe was a hero. He was the first black man to win Wimbledon and the US Open. He was a symbol of grace and power. Then, during a heart surgery, he was given a blood transfusion that was tainted with HIV. At that time, it was a death sentence. When the world found out, a fan wrote to him and asked, "Why did God have to select you for such a bad disease?" Ashe's response was pure Epictetus. He didn't complain about the unfairness of the world. He didn't curse the doctors or the hospital. He looked at the two buckets. He realized that the illness was now in the not up to me bucket. His reaction to it, however, was entirely his. He told the fan that when he was winning trophies, he never asked, "Why me?" He just played the game. Now that he was facing a different kind of challenge, he would apply the same logic. He spent his final years building foundations and helping others. He focused on his desire to be useful, rather than his aversion to death. He died with more dignity than most people live with, because he refused to let an external event tell him who he was. Training the mind. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly become as strong as James Stockdale or Arthur Ashe. This is a muscle that has to be trained every day. Epictetus called this training ascesis. It's where we get the word ascetic, but for a Stoic, it just means practice. You start with the small things. When you are standing in a long line at the grocery store and the person in front of you is moving slowly, you have a choice. You can feel your blood pressure rise. You can huff and puff and look at your watch. In that moment, you are a slave to the speed of a stranger. You are trying to control the not mine column. Instead, you can stop and say to yourself, "The speed of this line is not up to me. My patience is." As soon as you say that, the stress vanishes. You have reclaimed your power. You do the same thing when someone cuts you off in traffic. You do it when your kid spills milk on the rug. You do it when a client cancels a meeting at the last minute. Every time you consciously move an event from the my problem bucket to the external bucket, you are building an inner fortress. This is the source code for mental toughness. Most people think mental toughness is about gritting your teeth and powering through, but that takes a lot of energy. True toughness is actually about letting go. It's about realizing that you don't have to have an opinion on everything. You don't have to be upset by things that don't belong to you. The echo of the Hanoi Hilton. The story of James Stockdale doesn't end with his release. It ends with the way he lived the rest of his life. After he came home, he went on to become a vice presidential candidate and a leader in education. He often spoke to groups of young people about the lessons he learned in that cell. He told them that the people who didn't survive the POW camps were often the optimists. That sounds strange, doesn't it? We are told that optimism is a good thing. But Stockdale explained that the optimists were the ones who said, "We'll be out by Christmas." Then Christmas would come and go. Then they'd say, "We'll be out by Easter." Then Easter would come and go. They were tying their happiness to a date, something they didn't control. When the dates passed, they died of a broken heart. Stockdale survived because he was a stoic realist. He accepted the brutal fact that he might be there for a decade. He accepted that he didn't control the end of the war. He only controlled how he behaved that day. He turned his attention inward. He spent his time memorizing the names of every other prisoner. He created a tap code so the men could talk through the walls. He focused on being a leader in the one place he still had power, the space between his ears. This is the timeless relevance of Epictetus. Whether you are a Navy pilot in a prison cell, a CEO in a boardroom, or a father at the dinner table, the rules are the same. The world is going to throw shells at your engine. The market is going to strike. People are going to disappoint you. If you try to fight the world will win every single time. It is too big and too chaotic. But if you draw that line in the sand, if you decide that your peace of mind is up to you and everything else is just what happens, you become something the world cannot break. You stop being a reactor and start being a strategist. You stop being a slave and start being a master. You realize that while you may not be able to choose your circumstances, You always get to choose your character. And in the end, that is the only thing that actually belongs to you. Identify a current stressor in your life. Draw 2 columns on a piece of paper. Label them up to me and not up to me. Be brutally honest. If it involves someone else's choice, it goes in the second column. Commit to ignoring everything in the second column for the next 24 hours. Focus all your energy on the first. This is how you begin your journey into the world of Epictetus. This is how you find your freedom. Chapter 2. Why do you seek the approval of fools? In a famous study from the 1950s, a researcher named Solomon Asch brought groups of people into a room for a simple test. He showed them a picture of a line. Then he showed them 3 other lines of different lengths. He asked one simple question: which of these 3 lines is the same length as the first one? The answer was always obvious. A child could see it. But there was a catch. Everyone in the group, except for one person, was in on it. They were told to give the wrong answer on purpose. When it was time to speak, the actors all pointed to the wrong line. Then it was the turn of the real student. Even though his eyes told him one thing, his heart felt the pressure of the group. 75% of the people in that study gave the wrong answer at least once. They chose to be wrong just so they wouldn't stand out. They chose to lie to themselves because they were afraid of what a room full of strangers thought about them. We like to think we are different. We tell ourselves we are leaders and lone wolves. But the truth is, most of us spend our lives looking into a social mirror. We check our clothes, our cars, and our words to see if the world is smiling back at us. If the world frowns, we feel like we are failing. Epictetus believed this was the fastest way to become a slave. He taught that if you hand your happiness to someone else to hold, you shouldn't be surprised when they drop it. The man who refused to dance. In the year 66 AD, Rome was a scary place to be a good person. The emperor was a man named Nero. Most history books remember him as a monster, but he was also a man who was desperate for attention. He didn't just want to rule the world, he wanted the world to tell him he was a great artist. Nero decided he wanted to perform in a play. In those days, acting was seen as something low. For a Roman senator to get on stage and dance was a huge disgrace. It would be like a world leader today going on a reality TV show to act like a clown. But Nero didn't just want to perform alone. He wanted the most respected men in the city to perform with him. He wanted to pull them down to his level. Nero sent out an order. The senators had to join his theater troupe. This wasn't a request. If you said no, you were basically asking to be executed. One senator, a man named Florus, was terrified. He didn't want to ruin his reputation by dancing for a madman, but he didn't want to die either. He went to see his friend, a man named Pachomius Agrippinus. Agrippinus was a follower of the Stoic way. He was known for being calm when everyone else was screaming. "Should I go?" Florus asked. He was shaking. "If I don't go, Nero will kill me." Agrippinus looked at him and said something very strange. "Go, join the play." Florus was shocked. He thought his friend would tell him to be brave. "Then why aren't you going?" he asked. "Why are you staying home?" Agrippinus smiled. "Because I never even considered going," he said. "For you, this was a choice between 2 things. You looked at the price of staying home and saw it was death. You looked at the price of going and saw it was a little bit of shame. You did the math and chose the shame. But for me, I don't do that kind of math. I don't care what the price is. I only care about who I am." The red thread in a white cloak. Agrippinus explained his logic with a beautiful picture. He told Florus to imagine a giant white cloak. Thousands of white threads make up that cloak. Every thread looks the same. "I don't want to be a white thread," Agrippinus said. "I want to be the red thread. The red thread is that small, bright piece that gives the whole cloak its beauty. It stands out. It doesn't look like the others. If I try to blend in, I stop being the red thread. I would rather be killed while being myself than live as someone I am not." This is the origin story of true mental toughness. It isn't about being mean or loud. It's about deciding that your character has no price tag.